Hi, my name's Yoko. I'm here with another one of these day one, week one guides for 14. This one is for Deep Dungeon. It's for Quantum 40, which is the max level you can do in Quantum. It's a new little 4-man raid that 14 is trying out. This is for statics that are trying to clear, not for PF. I don't really care if PF uses my strats or my team strats, but don't blame me when it doesn't work out too well. Um, this is a relatively straightforward fight, actually, but it is very fast paced and it's very healing intensive. So, a few things before we even start. One, make sure your Aether Pool armor and arms are 99.99. Two, you're going to have this thing called a Pilgrim's Potion. You can see it kind of where I'm hovering my cursor in the bottom right. I'll draw a little thing on it, circle on it. This is a Pilgrim's Potion. You can find it from potsherds while doing the actual deep dungeon. You're going to want a lot of these, and if you don't have them, chances are you won't survive because this content was made around the fact that you would be using these a lot. Um, that's all I have for the starting. I'm going to get started with the mechanics. Okay, so the first mechanic of this boss actually starts before the boss even is pulled, and that's the fact that there are two different bosses. One of them is called an Eminent Grief. One of them is called Devoured Eater. Um, we can refer to them as dark and light. The Devoured Eater is light, Eminent Grief is dark. And you're going to see around the arena, there's a bunch of different puddles of dark or light. What this means is you can walk into one of these puzzles, like I'm going to show you right this second, and you're going to get a light or dark debuff depending on whether you walked into a light or dark puddle. What this means is you can only hit the dark boss if you have a light debuff, and vice versa. This is a very big reoccurring mechanic and the only way to deal damage to the boss. So you have to have a debuff at all times, and once you grab a debuff, you have a 1-minute timer where it ticks down. If it ticks down to 0, you get hysteriaed or petrified, and either one will result in you dying, basically. What you can do is you can walk over another puddle. Even if it's the same puddle, you can refresh your debuff. So after every mechanic, just keep in mind, do I need to refresh my debuff or do I not need to refresh my debuff? That's the main mechanic and the main gimmick of this entire boss. The second gimmick to the boss and the second main repeatable mechanic is occurs only a few seconds in. It's called Scourging Blaze, and it's basically line excess squares, if you know what I mean by that. But if you see on screen, you'll see that the boss is opening up an eyeball or a portal or whatever you want to call it, and he is opening it up horizontally. And then he's going to go place some prisms around the arena. And then he's going to do the same thing, but open the portal vertically. And then he's going to place some prisms around the arena. Basically, what we're doing here is that whether he opens it horizontally or opens it vertically, whichever way he opens it will be the way that those sets of prisms explode. I'm going to put an image on screen really quickly about demonstrating what I mean. So I'm not the best artist, but I made this in like 5 minutes. Give me a break. Those for prog. So basically, you can see we have a horizontal set in the top left, a vertical set in the top bottom left, a base set with all the final safe spots, all the final possible safe spots in the top right, and the combined sets of horizontal and vertical in the bottom right. You can see that the box in green is what I indicate as a safe zone or a column or lane. And once you combine them, you only get a small little safe spot. If you aren't following along what I mean, these little red prisms in the top left are all exploding horizontally. Which means, of course, since there's no red prism in the front lane, it's going to be safe. And in the bottom left sets, the vertical sets, you can see the same with the blue prisms. These are all exploding vertically. And since there is no blue prism in the middle left lane, or column, I guess in this case, the left column will be safe. And when you combine the two, because they go off at the same time, that leaves the top left of the middle square safe, as demonstrated in the green little rectangle. Get familiar with this because it can happen in the top left, top right, bottom right of the middle square, and it's going to happen a lot with other mechanics, so you're going to have to memorize them. I recommend using a chat macro that says front left, front right, back left, back right, and that'll let you know later on in the fight, yes, this was what was memorized earlier. I didn't forget, I have it in chat. Just a tip, up to you. But that's what we did. Yeah. So to give you a little idea of like how it looks like in action, I'm just going to play this real quick clip. You can see that we just move up, stand by the top right, and we just chill there. Don't mind the other mechanics, I'm going to talk about them later. But this is just show you how the exit players work. Alright, so let's talk about the next mechanic afterwards. There's going to be a lot going on screen, as you can see. A bunch of arrows, a bunch of towers, and even pairs going on. As well as a dynamo, if you notice that. It's very simple, actually. So, let me rewind just a tiny bit. First things first, these towers, they're very simple. First of all, you need to be light. You need to have a light debuff if you're going to take these towers. If you do not have a light debuff, they're not gonna count as taken, and you're gonna get damage down. Secondly, you're gonna get sucked in by something called Bound of Sin. All it really does is suck you direct center and bind you for 3 seconds. You're gonna see a bunch of arrows spawn. Now, these arrows can be facing inward or facing outward. If they're facing outward, aka you're in the center of the arena, and they are facing away from you, you need to stay in the middle of the arena, because it's going to do a dynamo, or a donut, whichever terminology you're familiar with. If they are pointing inward, you need to move out of the arena. And to do so, you need to actually look at where they spawned from. So as we can see, if I slow this down really quickly, you can see them spawn from the southwest and the northeast, and they are rotating clockwise. And they are thus ending north-south as the last appearing AoE. So what this means is, if they're pointing inwards, you have really quickly a chance to go north-south, or of course east-west, if that's what the pattern dictates, and get out of the arrows pointing inward. Here is a clip when it was a chariot, which means we have to move out of the center. You can see that it's going to be north-south safe, because they're the last ones to appear. And then, of course, we pair up with our pair, and head to our tower. Alright, so I made a little diagram here. You can see that it's going to be a donut, aka the middle is safe, when the arrows are pointing outwards towards the edge of the arena. And it's going to be a chariot, aka you need to move out of the middle when the arrows are pointing inward. I colored the north, south, and east, west in green as to indicate where you need to run if you need to move out of the middle. That's something for you to identify. You have about 2-3 seconds after you get pulled in to identify that. And you should split into pairs based on your north, south, or east, west people. I would recommend like melee pairs, aka the tank and the melee DPS, being north and east, and the ranged and healer being south and west. And then you can assign static towers if you want, or you can figure them out. We assign static towers. So now that you know how to do it, let's watch the full sequence. You can see that it's going to be inside, because we're staying in, and we can split up into pairs already north-south. And then, because we have light debuff, we're just going to go to our towers and go to the safe spot from earlier that we made a note of. The full. Next, we're going to talk about the ball of fire or chains and the blade of first light or blade of double light mechanic. This is like one of the last repeating mechs that this fight will do, the third most often. And essentially, it's just going to tell you, am I standing in the center lane or am I standing in the two side lanes? And then, am I baiting AoEs on top of myself and then dodging? Or am I staying still in a sort of stillness pyretic manner? But as you can see on screen, we can see that there's a single sword on the boss, and that there are balls of fire being cast. These can be cast in either order, which means that the ball of fire could be cast first, or the blade could be cast first. This is something you have to take note of, so it's basically just a 50-50 on top of another 50-50. Just make sure you do the mechanics, and you gotta be quick to them. I think chains are harder, because you have to stay still and they do damage. But it's a relatively simple mech. I don't think I need to go over it that much. Order, which, and of course, here is the full sequence. Like I said, I don't think I need to go over that much, because next mechanic is more interesting. You have chains, and you, of course, you need to stack together and then move apart to break them. And then after your chains explode, or after your chains break, you explode in a plus. So what we did is we just have static positions where supports go east and DPS go west, and the two inner people, which in this case is me and my Viper, we have a marker that we're designate to stand on, and the other two outer people will just go all the way out to a corner. It's pretty simple. You can decide however you want to do this. But I don't think that it needs to be talked about. Hold on. I'm just gonna keep playing. And after this, another reoccurring mech that happens 3 times in the fight is something called Spine Lash. Now, Spine Lash is a wild charge on the tank, so the tank needs to be up front. It hurts really badly with 99 Aether Pool armor. So you're probably going to use pretty heavy mitts or invulns if you have it. It happens 3 times in the fight, and you need to look back at the windows behind you in the arena, because Spine Lash breaks a window, and then once that window is broken, it summons an ad that needs to be killed. You cannot break the same window twice. If you do, it spawns a really strong ad that basically enrages the boss when it spawns. So you need to move, let's say we start west, all the way west, and then we slowly move to the middle, and then to the east over the course of the fight with our Spine Lashes. I think it's relatively straightforward, but just make sure that you're top. And so you can see this ad spawning. We blow it up really quickly, because we don't want to deal with it. And then this is going to do the next big mech. It's called Shackles. To break it down easily, the healer has a debuff that if they use any healing GCDs or abilities, it blows up in a big defamation-like AoE around them. So what they need to do is they need to wait a bit, let the tank go into the tank part, because the tank is supposed to get a tether that goes on the furthest person from the boss. Then the healer needs to go all the way south, and you can heal people out of range of your AoE, so you can let the defamation go off over and over, as long as nobody's close to you. The two DPS, they also have a debuff that explodes around them, not in a defamation-like size, but in a personal AoE size. So if I was a DPS, it would probably be around this size of the arena. So whenever they use an ability, not a GCD, an ability, they explode around them. But you can watch the tank mech. The tank is being tethered to. And then everyone gets sucked in a little bit. Healer goes in the back. You guys dodge AoEs. And tank gets tank bustered. And there are ads that you need to kill. The arcane fonts need to all be dead. I'll go over the tank portion in a different segment. It's going to do an Unholy Darkness, which is a raid wide with a bleed. Make sure to mid it. And just keep attacking the boss or keep attacking the arcane fonts if you're a DPS. Make sure all the ads are dead. Alright, I'm just going to look back really quickly. You can see, it's kind of hard to see at this angle, but you can see that when I casted a healing GCD just now, it went all the way up there. It's a huge AoE. And it's not like you're not supposed to heal, because you are supposed to heal. You just need to be out of range. So my advice would be to have you as the healer biased to one side of the arena, whether that be the east or west. That way the melee can be assigned to the other side of the arena, like we do have here. Like, I am more biased towards the east side of the arena, which means my melee can attack the arcane font over there while also being out of range of my defamation. Okay, going back for the tank mix, I don't have a good POV of this. This is something that Ken does. But, as you can see, the tank gets sucked in from a tether. Well, everyone gets sucked in. But the tank wants a tether, and to get that tether, you need to be the first person from the boss. I just have everyone be in melee range, including me. And then the tank can be max melee so they can get uptime. Or alternatively, you can just have everyone go out, and the tank stand in one of the back left or back right corners, and that should be fine too. But, essentially, what the tank will be doing is that they're going to stay in this little bubble. They're going to take a tower tank buster that hits 3 times and give them a poison, and then they're going to dodge a diagonal line AoE on them that's going to go through the majority of the bubble. So I'm just going to play it out again really quickly so you can see it. If you pay attention, you can see the tower buster on my tank. 1, 2, 3 hits. Then they move to the other side and dodge the line AoE through the bubble. They just do that twice. Also, another side note for the tanks, you can kind of tell which side the boss will shoot the line AoE from, because if you watch the boss right now, he is off hovering towards the west side of the arena, and his tail is on the east side. I like thinking about it using the tail. If the tail is on the east side for the tank buster, that means the boss is going to do the tank buster and then shoot the tail from the west side. So, northwest to southeast. And of course, vice versa. West. Here's like a rough mock-up of what's going on. Not everything is to size, but it's similar enough that it should give you a good feel. We have the range in the top right, the melee in the top left. There's 5 different ads around the arena, and the giant healer defamation. You can see the tank getting like line cleave through the center. They need to dodge that on the edge of the circle bubble. But you can kind of understand what I'm trying to say just by looking at this and looking over the footage. As a reminder, the tank buster and the cleave will happen twice. Alright, so you just killed the ads, you broke free, everything's doing good. Shouldn't be anything crazy. We're gonna dodge some AoEs, make sure to refresh your debuff. During this, it's also going to be casting another exit players later, so make sure to memorize that. And then the next mech will suck you in. It's going to be very simple. This time, you're all going to move as a group. It's either going to be in or out, and it's going to be the exact same one that you did on the floor 99 floor of the Deep Dungeon. So the regular one. In this case, we stay in middle because the arrows are pointing outwards. But if they're pointing inwards, with this configuration and how they're spawning from the north counterclockwise, we would be going out north if we needed to. Then we simply dodge the Exa. Do another pairs of colors. Make sure to equalize the HP so they're not too far a difference. And make sure everybody has dark debuff for this next crime and punishment to cast. So the first thing you need to know about this crime and punishment is that it gives one random person a slow stacking debuff or fast stacking depending on whether or not you're dark debuff or your light debuff. If you're a dark debuff, this Nisi, let's call it that, stacks very slowly. If you're a light debuff, it stacks up very fast. Once it reaches 16, it passes in a sort of Wrath Flames style, where if you're on top of someone else, it'll pass to them and give them a doom that needs to be assumed within 4 seconds. If somebody passed the debuff, the Nisi, they cannot get it again. They have an immunity. So we're just going to take a look, because it's a relatively simple mech. We're going to watch the boss do blades and chains. It's 2 swords, so we're staying in the middle, and it's chains, so we're staying still. That's just our configuration, by the way. It can be for other people, different for other people. You can see debuff is nearing 16, and there's another spine lash that we're taking in the middle. And once it was hit 16, it passed to my melee, which gave them a debuff, a doom debuff that must be cleansed. You can see my melee, because we want to speed up the pass, he went into the light debuff and got a light debuff, so it started stacking really quickly. There's another ad being spawned, and then it passed to another person, which needs to be cleansed. So kill the ad really quickly. There's going to be another Bounds of Sin, and I'm going to stop the segment right here. And so it's going to do Bounds of Sin, you're going to get sucked into the middle, everyone's going to be chained, and it's going to be always an out mech. So you need to always move out of the middle in some configuration. And then, right around now, if you're using our pass orders, the last pass should happen right this second, once you all go middle. So you can see the pairs go off. You can also see the last pass go off. It's on me. I have a doom. You do the chains. We did the chains earlier. I'm going to talk about them very quickly. The chains are a little bit different, but they're kind of the same. You just we had supports go east always, so south and east, and we had our DPS go north and west always. You can make this completely static with your earlier chains if you like to. We didn't, but that was just on us. So once again, last passes in the middle. I'm going to Asuna the person. We're going to do pairs. And then Drain Ether. You saw this in the 99 boss floor. It is the exact same. If the what's it called? Devoured Eater, the lights boss, is being cast first, you need to grab a dark. If the dark boss is casting it first, you need to grab a light. This applies to everyone except the person with the debuff. The person with the debuff must have the dark debuff the entire time, because Drain Ether, well, it drains away the Nisi. And if you don't cleanse the Nisi, you basically wipe. After that will be an Exaflare that you memorized from earlier. as well as an AoE. And once this dot ticks down to the very end, is going to be the last big mech that this fight has. It's called Fevered Flame. So this is probably this is going to be the biggest wall for most people, probably because it's honestly the most jank. Um, Basically, 5 ads spawn around the arena. Once you attack these ads with anything, they tether to you. They also have a stone skin, and when you break that stone skin, they will be slowed. First things first, you cannot kill these ads by conventional means. You need to drag them through a light puddle. Um, Secondly, if it goes into a dark puddle, they grow in size and, well, their ring grows in size. And if you are inside their ring, it basically gives you Vuln up and kills you. So don't do that. And thirdly, once they do go through a light puddle, they explode and do big raid wide damage. It's about 100k, 5-second fireball. So you can't stack 2 of them at the same time. I'm going to put an image after the mechanic, after we watch the mechanic, of what I did with it. First one goes off. Second one goes off. We just have people kiting them around a bunch. There's an Exos during this as well. Third one will go off. Fourth one will go off, and this is where our strat differs from others. We tank LB this, and let the last one time out. There's also going to be a chains and blade during this, or a bait and in during this. So, tank LB the chains, and the last one, tower is going to go off, bleed's going to go off, you're going to get sucked into the middle, and then it's going to be another one of these things where you need to run out, or you stay in the middle. It hurts a lot, so give your healer some help, use Pilgrim Pots. Okay, so if you can decipher this diagram, good for you. But let me break it down. The range is going to grab the southeast ad and the middle ad. They're going to use an instant on the southeast ad, so it instantly tethers to them, and then walks to the puddle and explodes. Then they're going to kite the 5th ad, the middle ad, around until it expires. But the sequence of events is southeast ad goes first, then the healer ad, which is the southwest one. They're going to stand direct south, wait a GCD once the ads are targetable, and then you target the ad, and they'll walk through the south puddle and explode. The tank is the third one, northeast. They're going to circle around their puddle, and then wait for the healer one to explode and the debuff to fall off. The melee one is the northwest. They're just going to kite around it in a circle or something. You can see the little circle here. And they just wait until the tank one's done. And of course, like I said earlier, the last one will expire and explode naturally. And because you have tank LB, it doesn't matter if the boss does chains, you'll still survive the fireball on the fireball because of that tank LB. Assuming you're tops, of course, you should have like a deploy or maybe, I don't know, wings, Lily. Just put a lot of mid there. It's pretty simple, but it is very annoying. I'm going to go back and play the whole sequence of events. Okay, so the ads are just spawning. Then the southeast one is picked up by the ranged. I wait a GCD, and then I pick up the southwest one. It's just going to walk towards me. And now my southwest one's going to explode. You can see the tank circling around his puddle. Now the tank one's going to explode. And now my melee is still circling around, getting ready to explode that one. That one explodes. We immediately tank LB. because the chain's gonna happen. And then the last one's gonna happen. And that's the entire mech. There's definitely another strat out there that like combines the two ads by walking them over and then feeds that last one. But I don't know them enough, and this is like day 1, day 2. You know, someone's gonna come up with something better. Okay, as you know, there's gonna be towers with bleeds, and then you're gonna get sucked into the middle. It's gonna be an in or an out. We're staying in this case. And then it's gonna be the final spine lash, so the final stack. Do it on the last window that you haven't done. It's gonna be with a pairs, so the person who gets tethered to the spine lash they get bound, so someone has to come to them, obviously. There's going to be the exaflare that you memorized from earlier, as well as an ad if you want to kill the ad fast. Refresh your buff, of course. And then it's going to be the exact same thing as one of the first mechs, with the tethers and the fire pluses. Everything from this point onward is something you've seen before. There's tank tower, it's going to hurt a lot. And of course, with the tank tower, it's going to do a line AoE afterwards. It's just gonna do, like, Ifrit Eruptions, I guess. Another Drain Ether. Another set of Eruptions. You're gonna get sucked into the middle again. Either gonna be in or out. This one was out north. Another one of these RNG mechs. Ours was middle first, and then we're gonna bait the ball of fire and move. And then this is the Enrage sequence. Unholy Darkness is the same AoE raid wide as earlier, except it does like 3 times as much damage on the bleed. These are literally 100k dot ticks. The other cast is just the Hard Enrage. And you know, that's the fight. It's pretty simple. It's kind of straightforward, very fast paced, but I had a fun time, and I hope this at least helps some of you out if you need a clear. Let me know if you have any questions. If I'm a bad guide maker, you know? I don't know, you know, just whatever you want to say. I hope this helps.